So today we live in a world that is hyper technological. There's an explosion, especially in the past 2 years, an explosion of AI tools, apps. And every day there's a new resource, a new revolutionary app with some unlikely promises. And it feels overwhelming. And it feels like you need a degree just to find your way around the digital resources and apps and websites and platforms that you actually need to support your Italian. And what happens is that again and again, people trust the apps blindly, and they end up spending a lot of time, months, and sometimes even years on the wrong tools with the illusion of progress, but without tangible progress. Now, I'll tell you, there's something I have to share before we begin. So the reason for this masterclass today is a conversation I had at the beginning of the year. I was looking for an editor for my book because I have, the book was already published. It was published a year ago, but I recorded the audiobook. And of course, I can never not try to change and improve things. So I've changed some things in the book. And I needed an editor to take a look at my changes because you can't just publish whatever you just wrote, right? So there were a lot of applicants, and one stood out, Michael, because Michael said in his application, you know what, I'm actually learning Italian. I have a 400-day streak on Duolingo, but something must be wrong with me because I still cannot speak. And I said, that's him. That's it. I need this person because he is going to benefit from reading the book more than anyone else. And also because this is something I hear and again from students who come to our school, 7-Week Italian, and they have various streaks on various apps, and they think something is wrong with them because the apps are not delivering on their promises, right? And that just drives me mad because it's so easy to trigger your lizard brain and say, well, my memory is probably not what it's supposed to be. I'm too old to learn, or whatever lizard brain and mindset issue and self-sabotaging attempt at the moment, right? But the truth is that very often, almost always, it's the tool, it's not you. Okay, so what is going to happen today is that I'm going to show you, first of all, how to look at this very confusing and overwhelming world of apps, digital tools, platforms, websites, and AI, and how to choose what can actually support your Italian and your Italian journey and your Italian dream, il sogno italiano, and what will sabotage it, and how you can tell the difference yourself. So the good news today is that you don't need to do any research because I've done it for you. And this session can actually save you many months, if not years, of frustration and allow you to move forward towards your Italian goals. Right? So let's dive in. Cominciamo. So first thing first, let's tell me who you are and why you're here. So first of all, chi è un lettore di Italian You? So if you are here because you've read my book, or maybe you are reading my book, Italian You, drop in the chat lettore o lettrice. Lettore o lettrice, if you have read or are reading Italian You. And of course, lettore if you're a gentleman, and lettrice if you're a lady. Oh, wow. Valeria, ciao Ilana, Gina, Tori, Monica, George, Teresa, Peter, Gina, Ray. Oh, Ray says, I've studied with 7-week Italian before. Great to see you back, Ray. Kay, Wendy. Ciao, Francesca. Linda. Janet says, we're moving to Italy in October. Wow, congratulations. Auguri. Gertie, Mora. Wow, so many of you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Tiffany says, I've heard of 7-week Italian and going to Italy in 2 weeks. That's super exciting. And the weather is getting better. So that's a good thing. Now, my students or graduates of Italian campus, go ahead and let me know. I've already seen a few of you in the chat, but still let me know. Allievo, allieva, allievo for boys and allieva for girls. Yeah, that was a downgrade from ladies and gentlemen, but you will forgive me for that, right? Mi perdonerete. Oh, wow, okay. Paolo, ciao. Bridget. Okay, ex-allieva is a graduate. So very, very happy to see you guys. And thank you so much for joining, even though you have the masterclass in the masterclass vault. But I know that nothing beats the live experience. Okay, per chi è la prima volta? Who is here for the very first time? Go ahead and write prima volta. Prima means first, volta means time. Okay, ottimo, ottimo. We have a lot of first-timers here. Welcome, guys. Benvenuti. So just for you, very quickly, I'll tell you how this works. Come funziona, va bene? So if you have questions, if you have a question, let's keep it singular, start it with domanda in the chat. Otherwise, you've seen what's happening in the chat. I might miss it. Remember that the chat is only, again, if you're prompted to ask something, to share something, then use the chat. And please do not share any links or unrelated comments, because we will be forced to remove you. And I really hate doing that. Notes. So you don't need to be taking notes. Non dovete prendere appunti when it comes to the digital tools. But it's not an Italian lesson, but you can walk away with quite a lot of parole italiane, parole ed espressioni. So I take notes of those. So you can start with what's on this page. So even if you know no Italian, or you didn't until now, regole d'ingaggio are rules of engagement, and domanda means question. So I love layering learning, and I actually know that when information, new words, new grammar rules, sentence structure, when it comes not finalized to its existence, but as part of a process, some kind of assignment, or as part of just something we're doing together, then it really sticks, okay? When it's not the main objective of the interaction. So it's like a wonderful side effect. And you'll see what I mean as we go. Okay, there will be a limited time replay if you need to re-watch it. So no worries about that. Now, some of you, especially those who have heard about us, about the 3D method, or about me, you might say, well, why speak about the digital tools? Because in the 3D method, for those who don't know, we are very, very kinesthetic. I insist on writing by hand, on always reading aloud everything you read and write. It's very hands-on variance. So it might seem that there's a contradiction for me to be dedicating so much time and attention to digital tools. But actually, it's not, because the 3D method is all about an immersive and holistic experience. It's all about the transformation that comes with language learning. While traditionally, what language learning approaches and methodologies do, they just share the information and hope that miraculously it would somehow stick. We focus on adults' neuroplasticity, how your brain actually processes information, and we try to cater to it and teach you how to cater to your brain. We actually share not just vocabulary and grammar, but we teach you how to retain those and provide you with tools and techniques to process both new words and new grammar. We focus on speaking, but also thinking in Italian and growing your language skills simultaneously. And all of that is actually geared towards building your Italian identity, focusing on culture, mentality, and becoming the Italian you, acquiring an identity through the exposure to culture and language and becoming part of that culture and language. Because otherwise, why do it, right? So being a 360-degree learning experience, I believe that digital tools can and should play a very important role in the overall ecosystem. But they need to be used correctly, and they need to be the right tools and not the wrong ones. Now, for those who said prima volta, very quickly, una micro auto presentazione. So I'm Tania. I'm the founder of 7 Week Italian. It's our online Italian language school. I am the designer or the creator of the 3D method, the methodology that we use at 7 Week Italian. And I'm the author of this book, Italian You, where I basically describe a roadmap to going from confusion and overwhelm of someone who is starting to learn Italian to where you know exactly what to do every day. I'm a linguist, an interpreter, a teacher, and an Italian language expert. I've dedicated all of my adult life to first learning and then teaching Italian. I'm also a lifelong language learner, and I'm delivering this masterclass in my 4th language. And this is not to brag, but just to convey the idea that 1, anything is possible if you want it. And 2, when I share something about language learning, about learning Italian, about the process of language acquisition, I know what I'm talking about because that's my purpose. That's what I do, especially when it comes to Italiano. So that said, what are the digital tools that you are currently using? Platforms, apps, websites, anything that you are using today. Go ahead, I asked you to bring a list of anything that you have used or are using right now. So go ahead and drop some in the chat. Okay. Mikel, am I pronouncing it correctly? Because it's not Michael, right? It's Mikel Shine. Let me know if that was right. Does Romanian language help to speak Italian? Actually, we should ask Daniela. She speaks Romanian and she's in the chat, and her Italian is absolutely wonderful. But yes, the Romanian, if you're a native speaker, Mikel, if you're a native speaker of Romanian, Italian will be a piece of cake. And I am not Romanian at all. One of my colleagues is, although, Duolingo, dice Christine, sfortunatamente, unfortunately, Duolingo and Google Translate, Frank, Duolingo, Duo, a lot of Google Translates. Babel, says Tracy, and Duo, chat, okay, Duo. Wow, okay. My family in Italy, says Gina. Okay, that's a digital tool if they are on Zoom, that's right. Okay, so we have a very nice panoramic overview of your digital tools. Keep that list handy, even for those of you who haven't shared it in the chat. We're going to need it once we have seen together how to approach, with what prism to approach the digital tools we are using, how to tell if they are the correct ones. Allora, gli strumenti digitali possono essere una benedizione o una maledizione. They can be a blessing, benedizione, or a curse. And I should have probably switched the cats. And the blessing cat doesn't look very happy, but you know, you use the cat that you get, right? So, how can we tell between the two? Come possiamo distinguere? How do we know if a tool we're using, and we may even be happy, maybe we are, I mean, all the people who get to a 600-day streak on Duo, they are not unhappy using it because they have this wonderful gamification side effect of feeling excited about a streak, but they can't really speak, can they? So this is how it goes. Ask yourself, is the app or the website or the tool, is it saving you time or effort? Is it supporting your learning experience, or is it trying to replace it? Sostiene, supports, o sostituisce, replace. Which one? And if it's not very clear, I'll explain. So, it's a blessing, è una benedizione, and it will help you, it will be useful when it's a good quality tool, it's used correctly, and we'll get to that. It can save you time, potentially, and it actually saves you time. It helps you structure your practice, and it actually keeps you consistent. You're moving forward thanks to the tool. Okay? It's a curse when? È una maledizione. When the tool has a low quality, a poor quality, and when it provides wrong information. On the other side, sometimes the overall quality of the tool for what it's meant to do is not bad. Una qualità sufficiente o buona, sufficient or good, but you're using it wrong. So there are basically two kinds of tools and ways to use these tools. When you use the right ones, they organize you, they help you organize your learning, organize your material, organize your time, save time when you look things up. Digital dictionaries come into mind. They help you retain new material, refine pronunciation. We'll see those as well. Improve your listening comprehension, improve speaking, catch mistakes, create clarity in your overall journey. But when you're using the wrong tools, or the tools are just poor quality and they're not delivering on their promises, you end up confused. You keep making the same mistakes. You are replacing learning with gamification. You concentrate on your passive skills. That's why Michael was sharing, not just him, but many students who share, well, I can read, I understand quite a lot at this point, and after more than a year, I can believe it, but I'm unable to speak. I just can't. And that's normal when the tool did not deliver on its promises, right? tools that concentrate on passive skills, ignore your needs as an adult learner, and make you waste time, right? And ignore your needs. That's everyone who said Rosetta Stone in the chat. That's one of the apps that completely concentrates on learning, teaching as if you were a toddler, right? Through imitation. Now, sometimes, as I said, you use the right tool, but you don't know how to use it, or you don't know what it's for. And it happens actually quite a lot. For example, a lot of you said you're using Google Translate as a dictionary, right? And there's a problem with it, because by using it as your dictionary, you are letting that app, because it is an app, basically, replace your learning process. If you're letting ChatGPT, and this is mostly for campus students, if you have ever given your compiti, I hope I'm not giving you ideas now, but if you have ever used AI to do your homework for you, that's sabotaging through a digital tool, because that's how an app, a digital tool, can replace your learning process. Okay, so if you were wondering, what does it mean that it replaces my learning process instead of supporting it? That's what it means. When the app does the work for you, when something that is supposed to happen within you happens outside of you on the app. Okay, so very quickly, here are all the digital pitfalls. And this is something I'd like you to write down. Non tutto ciò che luccica è oro. Can someone translate this for me? Just a curiosity. Who is going to be the first? Chi è il primo? Sì, grazie a Derek. Derek is the winner. Not all that glitters or shines is gold. And when it comes to language apps and platforms, this is very true. So usually when it comes to apps, this is what happens. La grande promessa, the big unrealistic promise, is download this app on your phone, use it a few minutes a day. So I already see two very big problems here. And you'll be fluent in Italian in just a couple of months. And let me know if you've fallen for a promise like that. Many people do. Scarica questa app sul telefono, usala pochi minuti al giorno e parlerai italiano in un paio di mesi. Why is this a trap? It presents itself as l'unica cosa. It's the only thing that you'll ever need. Just use this and you'll be fine and you'll be good to go with your Italian. The second problem here is that it reduces your Italian time to pochi minuti al giorno, which is already unrealistic and very harmful. So it's not sustainable. It's an unrealistic claim. No one who spends a few minutes a day will ever master, not just language, anything, I think. And if all of that weren't enough, ti costringe a usare il telefono. It forces you to use your phone. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on my phone, my attention span is very limited. It's just a few minutes. And that's one of the reasons that we prefer that our students don't use the phone when they are on the platform. And finally, è un autoapprendimento camuffato da tutoraggio. So it's basically self-teaching, but it's disguised as tutoring, because you feel like someone is guiding you, but in reality, you are left to your own devices. Now, there are three main types of apps. You can already start kind of deciding where your apps belong. So there are the streak apps, like Duolingo and other similar apps. There are AI tutor apps, fully AI-based, and there are platforms for private individual lessons, live tutoring platforms. And I'll walk you through the pitfalls of all before we dive into the tools that you actually do need. Because if you understand why something is dangerous and where to be aware of what, you can actually avoid the pitfalls and maybe still leverage the good sides when there are some or any. So the streak apps, let's start with those. A lot of you are using Duolingo. The first problem is gamification and the illusion of progress. So these apps, they weren't built by teachers. They were built by engineers. The objective of the app is not to have you grow, develop your abilities, and go beyond the app. The intention is to keep you on the app and to keep you playing. Okay, so basically the app is taking advantage of your time while not delivering on its promises. The second problem of these streak apps is that there is no review system. And when there is, it's whether very rigid or very weak. So in any learning process, and especially in Italian, you need to be in a continuous one step forward, one step back situation. Now, you'll say, okay, how am I supposed to move forward? The step back might be shorter, but it's a continuous spiral of going back to go up. It's an upward spiral of learning when it seems like you're going back because you're reviewing, but you're actually going upwards. And the apps lack this completely. They lack it completely. There's no review process focused on your needs. La frammentazione di grammatica e vocabolario. The input is very fragmented, and some of you mentioned it, maybe in other words, but that's very true. They just throw these little pieces of the puzzle at you. A lot of these apps have no pronunciation practice or pronunciation focus. Those who do have usually have a very poor voice recognition software. And the biggest problem is this. So when you have this, and this is true for all the types, when you have this app, let's say Duolingo, that's always a good example of everything that's not working. You have more than one language there. It's 30 something, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what they do very often, they don't create a specific journey for each language separately. Non c'è un percorso specifico per ogni lingua. They create one, usually good for English, because most people in the world, that's life, want to learn English. And then they just translate it into other languages. So there are small adaptations, but it's a copy-paste of many languages. And as someone who has learned in her lifetime, maybe 9 or 10 languages, I actually learned and reached full proficiency in just 4. But the process of learning, I think there were around 9 or 10 languages that I did some full immersion, had some full immersion experiences. You would never teach Italian the way you should teach English or French or German. Okay, so that's another thing to be very, very careful of. Oh, now these are, in the past 2 years, these were the biggest questions. AI tutor apps, app con tutor IA. First of all, they sell themselves, they market these apps as You can learn, become a baby. You're going to learn as a baby just by listening and speaking. So speaking from day one. Except there's a little problem. We are no longer able, if we are not 8 anymore, chances are our imitation abilities are quite limited. Again, there's the problem of troppe lingue, poca qualità. Too many languages, low quality. And another problem comes to mind here, because when you have an AI speaking app, it speaks to you. In addition to being a very low quality thing for minor languages, the English ones are quite good. There are, when you have 15 languages and the app is based on an AI model, on a linguistic or a huge language database, what are the chances? What do you think are the chances that they will go and update every single one of the 15 languages all the time as the tools evolve? No chances at all. There's a fixed, static, unreliable database. Again, they are not in a hurry to update those because they have already sold the app. And something that we're going to explore more here, errori ripetuti nei contenuti. Again, what they do, they take the English version and then they translate it into minor languages. So low quality, repeated mistakes in the content and even the ads. Now, these are all ads that, because I'm doing this research all the time, I'm just keeping my finger on the pulse of this thing. Obviously, my feed is overflowing with ads for AI apps, for language learning apps. In the chat, let me know what's wrong with it. So this is this girl, she's the AI tutor. She says this: sono andato nel panico, all'inizio ero scettico. What's wrong with this? Thank you, Tori. Ray, thank you. So she's a girl, right? But she uses masculine language, the default. Unfortunately, ladies, nothing to do about that. The masculine forms in Italian are considered the default forms, and that's fine. We need one default, and that's absolutely good. But what they did here, they took the English version, they translated it, no one checked it, and this is the ad. This is not inside the app. This is the client-facing marketing video. So if they didn't even correct here, they didn't even check it here and made sure this is decent quality, not even high quality. Imagine what's inside. Now, this is what I was talking about. Puoi scegliere tra 23 lingue diverse. So you have 23 languages, all copy-paste between them. And then it says, adorerai imparare con queste storie. Cosa c'è che non va? What's wrong with it? Who can tell me? Let's play a little bit. Robert says, non ci credo. I don't believe it. Okay, so can someone spot the problem? Adorerai imparare con queste storie? Anyone at all? Solo? Okay, so yeah, this is a bit advanced, guys. Adorerai imparare con queste storie. This is a word-to-word translation of you will love learning with these stories, except it doesn't sound Italian at all. It sounds like a word-to-word translation from English, which it is. So if you were wondering about the quality of these things, that's what it is. it's not Italian. A lot of calques from English, too many languages to keep track on all of them and assure quality. Now, this is the last one. Actually, I found it quite recently. It says, again, 15 languages available. So all the apps that give you 15 languages, 32 languages, you know they come from the same source. They are based on the same big data database. What's wrong with watch TV shows, full stop, learn Italian? Now, the problem with this, yes, grazie, Gina, sometimes the TV shows, if they're Italian TV shows, there's going to be a lot of colloquial language, a lot of dialect, a lot of very specific regional accents. That's why Italian TV and Italian original series are not the best way to start. But most importantly, you never learn just by passive exposure. It doesn't work, doesn't exist, okay? Now, that said, let's take a look at the tutoring platforms. Now, this is something I could have skipped, but I just couldn't, because this is very fresh now for me, because I have been interviewing tutors for the past 6 months. So even, you know what, more, because since the beginning of October, and we had something like 560 applications. I did over 100 interviews, and it was just heartbreaking. Because what happened is that during COVID, a lot of people, some of them students, some of them just people who weren't employed at the time or maybe ever, they went into the Italian teaching space. And of course, un madrelingua non è necessariamente un insegnante. So a native speaker does not equal teacher most times, because to be a teacher, you need to know how to teach. So what happens is that the lessons are sometimes random. There's no method behind them, no progression. And it's like a very spotty way of learning. And the biggest problem that I see, and I get a lot of pushback on this, and I get a lot of hate for this, but I stand by it. And this is the hill I'm going to die on probably. Chi non ha mai padroneggiato una lingua non è in grado di insegnare. So if you have never learned another language in your life, you cannot teach your own language, because you have no idea how the process works. You can be a conversation buddy. You can help with conversation practice as a native speaker, but someone who has never learned a language cannot help you learn language, can only help you practice. And the people who applied like these 563 applications, the ones who had never learned a language in their life were discarded, and the ones who I actually spoke to were the ones who knew more than 1 or 2 languages. And there's a happy ending to this story, but I'll tell you later. Okay, so what you need to keep in mind is this. Le app hanno molte imperfezioni. There are many imperfections on many levels. And you need to recognize low quality when you come across it, okay? So I'm not saying, oh my God, never use Duolingo, erase, delete it immediately, all of you from your phone. I'm not saying that, because maybe in some contexts, it could be, I don't know, when you're waiting in line to your proctologist and you have 5 minutes, why not? Give it a whirl. I do mean the app, not something else. But digital tools should support your learning, not replace it. So I'll repeat it. Usa le app, ma non lasciarti usare. If you are being used by these apps, by the technology, something is wrong. You need to use it for your progress, but not let it use you for its needs. And that's what happens with gamification apps, right? So the rule is prenderle cum grano salis. And you'll say, this is not Italian, this is Latin. That is still very much in use in the modern Italian, cum grano salis, with a grain or a pinch of salt. Be careful. Now, I promised you a litmus test for all the digital tools that you are using or will use. And the litmus test is this. I'm a recovering art historian. And for me, the most perfect and the most balanced and the most marvelous and logical structure in architecture is the Greek temple. So think of your Italian journey, of your Italian needs as your Italian temple, the temple of your Italian, il tempio dell'italiano. And this is what it looks like. At the base, the very first step, the very first layers, the layer of the foundations is the mindset. Then you have vocabulary and grammar. Please note that mindset comes before them. Then you have the 4 basic language skills: leggere, reading, ascoltare, listening comprehension, parlare, speaking, scrivere, writing. And if they are all grown simultaneously in a balanced way, you get to the 5th skill, the holy grail of every language learner: pensare, thinking. And all of that leads to identity building, because without all of these elements, we won't get there. There won't be enough basis, enough foundations, enough structure to build your Italian identity. Now, when you're wondering about an experience, a tool, or even a course, ask yourself, first of all, if it presents itself as the only thing that you need, l'unica cosa, and we saw that that's one of the problem of the apps. It says, you don't need anything else, just use this and you'll be golden. Ask yourself, does it provide you with the tools to build unbreakable mindset? Because learning a language and using a language, it's scary, okay? So you need to be building the mindset, the courage to be stopping self-sabotage twice a week or maybe every day. Does it help you not just come across vocabulary, but does it help you retain it and use it actively? Does it provide you with the tools to understand grammar, not memorize it mechanically? Does it help you leggere, ascoltare, parlare, scrivere? Does it build all of these elements in a balanced way? All of these skills? Is it geared towards thinking and building identity? If the answer is yes, absolutely wonderful. Now, if the app is not presenting itself as something, is the only thing that you need, ask yourself, where in this ecosystem, in this temple, what does it support? Does it support the vocabulary? Does it support the reading? Does it support the speaking? Where does it go? Where does it help me? So this is your litmus test. Now, I've told you a lot about what not to use and how to recognize problems and what the problems are, but what are the tools that you should be using as part of your Italian ecosystem, l'ecosistema italiano? Allora, ecco gli strumenti digitali del nostro metodo 3D. Here are the 3D method digital tools. Again, we have this giveaway at the end of the lesson. You'll get all of these tools and actually much more. So don't worry, you don't need to write down the websites or the links. First of all, reference tools. Significato, coniugazione, pronuncia ed espressioni. Don't worry, we'll go one by one. Significato, meaning. So first thing first. Again, remind me who said they use Google Translate as your dictionary in the chat. Oh, grazie, Maria. Maria says this makes so much sense. Okay, see? Erin? Okay, everyone else is very silent, but I've seen a lot of Google Translate in the chat before. Now, the problem with Google Translate is this. So, excited. Are you excited to go to Italy? Translate excited for me into Italian. Okay. George says you can't. Okay, Paolo says eccitato. Now, it's a kind, looks like a cognate, excited, eccitato. Eccitato is a word that exists in Italian, and it has the very same Latin roots of excited. It looks the same, it sounds the same. It's natural to say, it makes sense. And in fact, if you go to Google Translate and just look for excited, the first thing that it gives you is eccitata, feminine. And thank you, Google Translate. They put the feminine version first. That's very flattering for once. And eccitato, the masculine version. Little problem. Eccitato and eccitata in Italian does not mean excited at all. There is no way that you would want to say excited and use eccitato, because that literally means overexcited to a point that there's something almost morbid about it, or sexually aroused, which I'm pretty sure was not the intention that you had when saying, I'm excited. And this is something I see very, very often, and it's not by chance, because I actually ask students, are you excited at the beginning of and now you're ready. At the beginning of a new adventure, I asked them, are you excited? Translate this for me in Italian. And they translate it with eccitato, eccitata, and that's the first lesson. But the point is, you cannot translate blindly. That's not how it works. But the very negative thing here is that Google Translate gives you this reply, and it's absolutely wrong. Now, what's the problem with that? Is that Google Translate is not a dictionary. It's a translation tool. So as a translation tool, it needs context. It needs at least an expression or a sentence. The more words you give it, the better. If you give it a paragraph, it thrives. With just one word, it will give you just one use of that word, and it's not even going to be necessarily the correct one, as we have just seen. So it's a translation tool. You should use it when you have a paragraph, when you have a sentence, when you have something that is more than just one word. But even then, you should be very careful. And there's a story I have to tell you because it's rather recent. So a relative of mine, I think she's my aunt or the third cousin of my mom. Anyway, a distant relative. She came to Italy and she traveled around a little bit. And I asked her how things went, and she said, "Well, it's marvelous, marvelous. Everything was wonderful, but the Airbnb experience was terrifying. It was, I will never forget it. It's such a trauma. I will not recover from it for several years now, probably." And I asked her, "Oh my God, what happened? Why? What happened? What did they do to you, these Airbnb people?" And she said, "Well, Airbnb, they're self-checking. You have the instructions." And I read the instructions. I translated the instructions. I came to the building. The entrance instructions were completely wrong. The code to the I went into the building. I went to the right to the right floor, and the instructions to enter the apartment were wrong. So that was, and I spent an hour downstairs waiting for someone to come and let me in, and then I spent another hour trying to get in until a neighbor came and told me that what I was dialing as a phone was actually the code to open the door. And I thought, that's impossible. I mean, people who run Airbnbs usually, this happens once and then they fix everything, right? Even if they're Italians. So I asked her to take a look at the instructions, and they made perfect sense. Then I asked her, like, "Well, you said you translated them. To which language did you translate them?" And she speaks Russian. That's her native language. She also knows English. She's a translator. That's her profession. And she said, "Well, I just directly used Google Translate to translate it directly." Now, what she didn't know is that Google Translate, as all of these other tools, it passes through English. So you have two minor languages, and between minor languages, there's no direct connection. So the database retrieves the English equivalent and then creates the equivalent of the English in that other minor language. So what the app did, what Google Translate did, it took the Italian version, translated it into English, and then translated that into Russian. And on the way, they lost the hashtag symbols for the code. And instead of key in this code, it said dial this. So she kept phoning, trying to call that number. So the tool, it wasn't perfect, but it did its job. But the problem was that she didn't know how to use it. And she complained not about her wrong use of the tool, she complained about the poor Airbnb people, right? So we should be so careful when it comes to these digital tools, because even when you think that things are obvious, they are not. Even when you think that things are straightforward, they are not. So when it comes to single words, please use word reference. When you use word reference for excited, it will tell you something completely different. It will tell you entusiasta, thank you to everyone who said it, emozionato. And then it will say eccitato as the last option. And when you go and check what it means with the examples, you'll see that it's not what you meant. Okay, so you can listen to your word. You can also, this is quite recent, a couple of years, I think. Look, they added not just their native dictionary for word reference, there's Collins dictionary in there, and there's the VR reverse. So to see how you would translate it back to that language. Okay, so if you just need to translate one word, use word reference or any other good online dictionary. Now, that's not enough, because many words in Italian and words in English, they won't have a direct translation into Italian and vice versa. And so you cannot basically fully translate excited into Italian. There's no one equivalent word. Mentality, culture, they're different. So here comes, in these cases, especially when you are beyond B1, the Italian dictionary. And when you go and look up eccitato, which does not translate back to English fully, the first meaning that it gets you is the sexual arousement, because that's the most common one. Okay, and then it goes, it talks about the overexcitedness, nervousness, someone who is agitated, right? So this is not just for the advanced students. And by the way, this specific one is the Treccani, which is like one of the most famous encyclopedias of famous Italian encyclopedias. Use it, even if you feel you are not very advanced. And then we have la coniugazione, verb conjugation. So there are a lot of tools for verb conjugation. Some of them are decent. None of them are perfect. My suggestion for now is reverso coniugazione, since we're going to use reverso for other things as well. But the most important thing that I need to tell you is this, the one thing I'll show you in a book. Now, when you ask it to conjugate a verb, it will come up with everything. Okay, so here we have volare, we have just the 3 tenses, but one of the first tenses that it gives you is passato remoto. Now, I have no idea why they thought this was a good idea. Like that's just completely beyond my comprehension. But what you need to do as a beginner or an intermediate level student, you need to learn to ignore everything else, because you're going to get this for every verb. That's 14 tenses, 4 modes, various forms. A lot of them you do not currently need. Some of them you will never need. Okay, so just go for the tenses that you've actually learned. And if you need to kind of limit yourself, presente, passato prossimo, e futuro, and maybe imperfetto if you are at a good intermediate level. But if you only know presente, it should only be presente. Just ignore everything else. Otherwise, you'll just be overwhelmed. Next is, well, it says pronunciation for clarity, but these are actually text-to-speech tools. And text-to-speech tools are pure magic, because they, and I wish I had those 30 years ago when I started Italian, because they are, the potential there, if you know how to harness that potential, is incredible. Because when you can write a paragraph or read a paragraph and then feed it to your text-to-speech tool and listen to it pronounced back, that's an incredible thing to be able to do. So there are a lot of text-to-speech tools. You can just Google text-to-speech Italian. Some of them are free. The free ones have voices that are slightly less natural. The ones that are paid, they have free plans. I think both of these have free plans with up to, if I'm not mistaken, 5,000 words, I think, for free. At least it was a few months ago. They all work the same way. You choose the voice. Here it's this girl. It has to be Italian voice. Drag and drop your text or paste your text, click on play and listen to it and repeat. Now, what do we do with expressions? When we have an expression and we are unsure, maybe we came up with it, and we don't know if it exists in Italian, maybe it doesn't sound very Italian to us, because if you listen to yourself, even as a beginner, you already have that meter in your head that if you just listen to yourself, if something doesn't sound Italian, you'll feel it. So let's say you want to say, I am cold. So you take I am, io sono, fair enough, right? Cold, freddo. And you say, io sono freddo, and then you think about it and you say, I'm not sure I've ever heard that. It doesn't sound very Italian to me. So you would go to reverso context and see if this exists. And it will tell you something in this case, it will tell you we couldn't find this entry. We're showing approximate results and there are only 3 results. And this is an indication of the fact that something is off. So you would go back to English and you would translate I am cold, and you'll realize that in Italian, you never say io sono freddo, because if you say that, it's not that it lacks meaning. It means that you are cold to the touch, or you are a cold person, distant. But if you are feeling cold, it's not something you are, it's not something you feel, it's something you have. Io ho freddo. And then you see that this is the right version, because then there are many options, and this is how it translates usually. So it gives you that sentence in context. The problem is it's not perfect. And again, I'm very excited to see you all. It just went on and translated it. Sono molto eccitato per vedere tutti voi. So absolutely not Italian in any shape or form. So tools are not perfect. They never are. So un grano salis, with a pinch of salt, with a grain of salt. Now at this point, something feels off to us and we say, okay, something is fishy, let me check if this exists. And there's a wonderful tool, underused, no one knows about it. The quotation marks, the search in quotation marks. So if you go to Google and put this phrase, I am very excited to see you all, just the way Reverso provided us with, just the same phrase in quotation marks, what it gives you is all the results. And if you go to tools and you look at how many results are there for this specific phrase, just one, which means it does not exist. Because when you go and look up and in English with the quotation marks, I'm very excited to see all, there's slightly more, right? 1,230,000 results, which means this exists and is being actively used by native speakers. Okay, so this is your unfair advantage, the quotation marks search. And yes, even that is in your cheat sheet. Okay, we already talked about Google Translate and its older brother, DeepL, older, more professional, more serious brother. DeepL, they are both not dictionaries, but translation tools. And the moment you offer Google some context, I'm very excited to see you all. See, it found its way. It does not translate excited with eccitato anymore. Thank God. It translates sono davvero emozionato. Okay, di vedervi tutti, it feels a bit wonky, but we'll let it be. So don't look for perfection, look for shortcuts that do not compromise your learning. When we go to DeepL and say, I'm very excited to see you all, it actually gives much more quality. The examples it gives, the translation it provides are higher quality. Okay, so in this case, I'll definitely go for DeepL. Then these were the reference tools. When we check things, we look things up, we listen to things, we pronounce them, we read them. But then we also need tools to organize our experience. And these can be magical. So the first one, quite unexpectedly, is Google Translate. Yeah, Google Calendar. So Google has to kind of make it up to us for all the damage it did with Google Translate. So Google Calendar is a wonderful free tool you can use to keep your Italian calendar. What goes into your Italian calendar? Anything that has to do with your Italian song of the week, your Italian movie for the fine settimana, for the weekend, your Italian dinner that you scheduled maybe with your friends, any kind of Italian plans, your Italian verb of the day that you're going to conjugate on that day, conversation practice, your pausa cafe meetings, your Italian grammar clinics in campus, your deep dives in campus. And I actually think this might be even the correct dates. Yes. Maybe the words that you need to repeat that day. So anything Italian, it's going to be like the roadmap of your Italian journey. And I think this is one of the most useful things to do on your Italian journey. Now, the next one I suggest that you keep in mind is something quite unexpected. Asana is actually a project management tool, but I recommend that you use it for your Italian. And I'll even show you a demo project here. So why is it different from Google Calendar? Because the calendar is linear, obviously, right? It's chronological, and that's where you plan. Here, you have the project level. These are all your projects, and it can be your learning schedule or your Italian wish list or your books to read or songs and translations, podcasts, any pronunciation work, or grammar rules that you can keep in the same place, or resources, your movies to watch that you can just add to that list, vocabulary work. So you have the level of the project. I know we can create a new project here, blank project, we can call it Exploring Italy. So the free version of it is incredibly generous. You don't need to pay for it because you don't run a team. So it's just you and maybe your study buddies. But it's a wonderful, wonderful tool that is taking slightly more time than usually because we have the stream. And that's fine. So you can use the project level, you can use the task level, and you have the subtasks. Okay, now it's stuck because too many resources at the same time. I think you get the point. Check it out. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool that can organize your Italian journey the best possible way. And then we have inspiration tools. Right Play is like for the UK students, it's like BBC Player. It has all the movies, the live streams. You might need a VPN, so check that if you're not in Italy. Rai Cultura is a very good resource. It's not easy Italian, but sometimes all you need is the headline. So you have arte, letteratura, storia, musica, cinema, teatro, whatever you're interested in, maybe science. So choose your area of interest and explore. There's so much there. Really, really a very rich resource. And yeah, there are videos, of course, and not just text. Then there's Liber, or Liber, to say it in Italian. And this is actually a charity. They specialize in spreading the Italian culture. So it's books, mostly music, songs, and audiobooks. So this is something to check out, especially if maybe you have a favorite book. There are a lot of classics there. Find your favorite book in Italian with the audiobook version and the ebook version and work on that in parallel. Oh, and then there's the strumenti di interazione, interaction tools. So if you absolutely want to try this live tutor thing, instead of going to the apps that maybe build them on one of these guys a year ago, since then everything changed. The whole system was upgraded. The app remained as it was, but these guys, they advanced. So ChatGPT would be my choice. Some like Gemini. You can use, so I've been testing ChatGPT for the past 3 years since it came out, since it became a thing. And it has improved incredibly. It's still imperfect when it comes to Italian, è ancora imperfetto, but the voice chat, if you just use it to practice conversation, most of the time it will be okay. So why is it a good thing? When you go directly to ChatGPT, it's aggiornato e in evoluzione. Any update goes right in there. The apps stay as they were. Può parlare con te in modalità voce. So you can actually tell it, look, I'm a beginner. I need you to slow down, to speak in simple sentences. And the voice chat, I find it magnificent. It's really incredible. It's a 24/7 available study buddy, and it's great for building basic vocabulary. Now, it does have problems because the English is still much more advanced and much more like it's a richer experience. And it's a stronger part. So sometimes it would go for calcs, for word-to-word translation, and you need to call it out and tell it, and it will say it's sorry and correct. But that happens still quite a lot. And sometimes it just invents stuff. We have caught it again and again, inventing answers to grammar questions. So careful there. So sometimes asking it, are you sure something is not right here? It will go and amend its answer. So remember, when you do this, it's a study buddy, not a teacher. Compagno di pratica e non insegnante. Very clear instructions, istruzioni chiare e precise. Tell it no calcs, word-to-word translations. Beginner level. Focus on correcting me. So you need to tell it what you need and use it to support your learning and not to replace it. So it's a conversation buddy, it's not a teacher. And most importantly, never ever share your personal data with it, okay? Now, the point here is this. We've seen a lot of tools, the really bad ones, the sometimes good ones, and the ones that can support your learning. But a tool is just a tool. Uno strumento è uno strumento. You can choose to use it and replace your learning, or you can choose to use it to support your learning. Remember, supportare o sostenere e sostituire sound similar to very different things. So choose to support your learning. If you have any doubts, remember il tempio dell'italiano. This is your litmus test. You can always trust this. Now, I spent the last 6 years of my life building an experience, an online experience based on this temple in a way that covers all of its elements. And that experience is called Italian Campus. And we have with us some students from Italian Campus. And now, if I were following the rules of online webinars, I would right now share a link in the chat and tell you, guys, join us if our approach resonates, come into campus and let us help you with your Italian. But I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is invite you, those of you who are new to our world. Tomorrow, same time, same place, register for the open house session and join us. So you need to actually register through a link, and Dani, grazie. Daniela is going to has just shared the link in the chat. So those of you who want to know how we can help them in campus can register. Now, why am I doing this extra session just to tell you about the elements of campus? Well, first of all, because it deserves much more than just this, the time that we have now. And secondly, because it's not for everyone. Non è per tutti. So if this is interesting, if you feel you need our help, or your Italian journey is something that you really care about, join me tomorrow, register, join me, and I'll walk you through campus. So very quickly, it's a 360-degree immersive experience. And as I said, I've dedicated the past 6 years to building it in a way that respects the learning journey of an Italian learner through building your ecosystem, reinforcing your mindset, providing you with the community, because campus is, yes, it has the flexibility of an online program, but it's also a human-centered experience. So there's the community, there's the support of tutors, there's human feedback on your homework. We practice conversation in pausa cafe groups. We have our live lessons, and we answer your questions. So it's about leveraging technology on one side, but providing you with the warmth of human interaction on the other. And yes, it's my baby, and I'm very proud of it. And we have a wonderful team behind it as well. So I'll be happy to tell you more tomorrow. And for now, the students of campus that are here, if you want to say a few words about your own experience, graduates or students, you're very welcome. Now, what I need you to take away from today is this, and I promise then I'll share the digital tools cheat sheet. If you only take away 3 things from today, let it be this. Usa gli strumenti digitali per sostenere lo studio, non per sostituirlo. So, support, not replace. Usa la tecnologia, ma non farti usare. Use technology, do not let it use you. And if in doubt, nel dubbio, usa il tempio dell'italiana. Use the Italian temple as your compass, come una bussola, as your litmus test, to see if something supports your learning the way it claims to support. Now you have the tools. Now, there's one more thing I want you to walk away with. This wasn't very planned, but I was thinking just before we started, I was thinking, yeah, this is a digital tools masterclass, and it's normal that we talk about digital tools, but it wouldn't be complete if we didn't mention one very fundamental element. We cannot look at Italian learning as gathering information. It's not something that happens in our brain. So let me read for you this very, very quick passage from chapter 4 of Italian U. It says, involve your heart, my friend, then apply the tools and techniques of the 3D methods, and your true potential will flourish. Your path to Italian fluency, your Italian U, will become a joyful journey full of soaring progress. Without your heart, all that your language learning journey can be is a frustrated path of food drugging with short-lived results. learn Italian with your heart. And that's really the key. With all the tools, with all the amazing things, the process that happens, for it to really happen, it needs to pass through your heart. So fall in love with Italian. There's no way around it. And hopefully that makes sense for a lot of you. Okay. Our live bonus giveaway today is the Italian Digital Toolbox cheat sheet. You are very welcome to download it from the chat. Grazie, Dani. She already shared it in the chat. So this is a live giveaway only for live lesson attendees. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. And if you have questions, you are very welcome to stay behind. We have a couple more minutes. If there's anything that is a burning question, I'm happy to answer. As to the link, and Dani says it in the chat, when you click on it, depending on your settings of your device, sometimes it will just throw it into the downloads, and that will be it. It won't even ask you where to put it. Okay, so if it seems like it's not downloading, check the downloads. It might already be there. Okay, guys, so Dani, I'm just going to ask you to share again the link for tomorrow for those who might want to join us, who have time tomorrow at the same time to come and discover campus. Carol, I'm very happy to answer all the campus questions tomorrow. Oh, and we have some messages from our wonderful campus students. Gina says, I learned a lot and it was a wonderful experience. Grazie, Gina. Derek says, great presentation. My wife would benefit greatly from this. Is it possible for her to see a repeat copy for a limited time over the weekend? Derek, if you'd like to show this to your wife, we streamed it into the YouTube, still are streaming. I think I didn't stop the stream. So it's on the 7 Week Italian YouTube channel, and we'll send the link to the replay when this is over at the end, when we have converted the recording. So if she can watch it, hopefully in the next 24 hours, it will be there. So until tomorrow at 5, basically. Ilana says, being part of the 3D campus on 7 Week Italian has been a wonderful experience, and I have learned so much. Grazie mille, Ilana. Andrew says, thank you so much. Always love connecting with you. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining. I feel it's not the first time. Irene says, I'm interested in the open house, but cannot come at that time. Will it be recorded? Absolutely. Irene, to get the Irene, let's use the Italian version, to get the recording of tomorrow's open house, just register through the link. If you save your place, just save your spot, you will be among those who get the recording as well. Always a pleasure to get excited about learning Italian. Oh, guys, I could just read this chat infinitely. Sky says, thank you so much for your presentation. Very useful. If we will be able, can I ask if we will be able to listen to it again? Absolutely. As I said, YouTube stream, it's still there. It will take, I think, a few hours for them as well to render it. And then we will send a recording. I know it was very quick and a lot. Marianne, just scroll up in the chat. It will be there. But, oh, Dani, grazie. I'm looking for questions at this point. And Raymond says it was late, so yeah, absolutely catch up on the first part. Okay, niente domande, which means we are done. Make sure you register for tomorrow. If you need to watch the replay, make sure you watch it in the next 24 hours. Grazie infinite a tutti. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow.